dance the night away. And yes, for sure, we did so much more, but that was back in the day. We would hold hands and walk in the park, or sit in a little cafe. But these days... Hello everyone, it's Dana Gillespie, Globetrotting with Gillespie, here as usual at the Temple of Art and Music. And tonight's a rather special night actually, because it's the book launch of Will Hodgkinson's book In Perfect Harmony. So we're going to do a little bit of 70s music as the evening progresses, but while we've done the sound check and while we're waiting for the whole evening to kick off, I thought it'd be fun to meet one of the musicians who's going to be playing tonight, Malcolm Doherty. Now, Malcolm, I don't know very much about your past. Tell me, what made you choose guitar, for example, as that's your main instrument, isn't it?
It is, primarily, yes. I wanted to be a drummer when I was a kid.
Me too.
Everybody does. And one of my father's friends, an old guy called John Rickard, who was a golf partner of his, was a jazz drummer. So I had lessons with John Rickard and I absolutely loved it. And I was really into all the great jazz drummers. Joe Morello was my favourite.
I adored Joe Morello as well. I mean, the moment one heard Take 5, that's it, Joe Morello.
And when you see him do that solo on the telly, that's a mind-blowing thing. So that for me was like lots of other people had their Hendrix moment or their Bowie moment. You know, for me it was Joe Morello.
Me too. I didn't know
strange?
that.
Yeah,
well, I did have a bit of a weak spot for Sandy Nelson.
Absolutely.
Let There Be Drums, but that's something else. Yes.
So yeah, it was that. So I had a drum kit and I made a lot of noise in the garage, and the neighbours got together and wrote a letter of protest and gave it to my father. Mm-hmm. And he said, right, perhaps you should try something else. So I moved on to guitar, and I had lessons. I had Spanish guitar lessons, classical guitar lessons.
I think everyone starts on nylon strings on a cheap guitar, because they're cheap as chips, those Spanish guitars. You can get one for £5.
Well, my cousin Neil actually was living in Spain. He was much older. He was like my older brother. He was the person who would give me albums that were my sort of formative things. So he gave me my first Bowie album. He gave me Electric Warrior by T-Rex. He gave me the Queen albums, amongst many other things. And he gave me a guitar. He gave me a Spanish guitar that was, you know, he'd moved up a grade to a better one. And I did my grades. I studied that. And then obviously when I was 15, 16, like most other kids, I wanted an electric guitar. And I got myself a job up at Gatwick Airport, working the papers, delivering the papers to because my father wouldn't have an electric guitar in the place, you know, that wasn't for him.
I used to be delivering newspapers as well. I was a paper boy. But were you a paper boy?
Yes, but to the planes. So I would get there at 5 in the morning, bail up all the different editions for the aircraft, and they'd be from all the newspapers from all over the world. And then I would take them down to the planes. And, you know, there was no security. I'd take it down on a trolley, you know, like a baggage trolley, and load them up.
What was your first guitar, your first electric guitar?
It was a Strat copy.
Oh, a copy. What, a Squire or something?
No, something unheard of, some Japanese thing.
Right.
And then we had a house fire, which may or may not have been suspicious. We happened to be visiting my grandmother, and my father happened to be playing golf. So, you know, I've always thought, okay. But that was quite handy because it was insured, and so I got a proper guitar with the insurance.
Which make?
Which was a Les Paul, a black Les Paul.
Ooh, nice.
So I had a proper...
Sexy.
Yes, a very sexy thing. And that was it. I never looked back. That was my favourite thing. I wish I still had it. Obviously, I traded it and sold. There's so many guitars in my past, more guitars than there are lovers.
Let's face it, you can tune your guitars easier than sometimes...
That's very true.
We won't go any further. So, you joined a band at some point.
Yes.
Back in London, or how did that happen?
Had a band. I went to Worthing Art College.
Okay.
And, you know, art colleges always are those places where bands form, and I had my first band there. And then I moved to London. I always had a band going. I graduated in graphic design, so, you know, those worlds were also quite...
They were hand in hand, yeah.
And that was it really. And eventually one of the bands was picked up by a small indie label called Ultimate. A guy called Andy Winters gave us our first money to go and record.
What was the band called?
That was called the Mal Chicks.
Oh, okay.
Because I'm Mal. And they weren't chicks, but it was a thing from Clockwork Orange.
Yes.
And yeah, we went and cut some demos at Bark Studios in Walthamstow, which then became a very happening, you know, place for indie records, bands like Primal Scream and My Bloody Valentine. And yeah, one thing led to another, and I started playing for other people and doing sessions for people. And,
Is that your thing now? Because you're not really in a band full time, are you now?
Well, I kind of am.
Oh, are you?
Well, I'm in a
I stand
band
corrected.
called Ouija, which is myself, Daphne Guinness and Paul Fryer.
Oh, right.
Yeah, who's a visual artist, and Daphne Guinness, who's a sort of polymath, who does all sorts of great art.
What a sort of
artistic
superstar she is,
Yes.
too.
And an old friend of yours.
Yes,
of
well, I know from Mystique
Yeah.
and those. She's known for those outrageous shoes that
Yes,
she wears.
which
Does she wear them all the time?
Pretty much, yeah. She invented them. She made them with a Japanese designer called Noritaka, and they came up with them. And of course, Lady Gaga was very enamoured by Daphne's look and sort of appropriated that look. So everybody thinks Daphne looks like Lady Gaga, but funnily enough, Lady Gaga dresses like Daphne.
Daphne got there first. Oh,
and
good.
Daphne lends her the shoes, and you know, it's all quite.
And you also had a sort of bit of a flirtation with the Bowie setup, didn't you? Tell us. I mean, because, you know, let's face it, since Bowie died, the fans are more and more and more.
Well, I was involved early on with a band called Holy Holy, which was a Bowie tribute band, but with people who were all connected to Bowie in some way or other. So I went along to the ICA for the Bowie Is events, and I met Woody Woodensey, the last living Spider.
Yes.
And I said to him, you know, wouldn't you like to perform some of these songs again? And he said, well, I'd love to, but you know, no bugger's interested in most of them are dead. So we put a band together for him, and that's how it started. And then Tony Visconti came in to play bass, because we did the Man Who Sold the World album, which Tony had played bass on originally, as well as producing.
Yes, because he didn't do Space Oddity, did he? He turned it down.
That's right. He
didn't like
deferred it to Ken Scott. Oh no, not Ken Scott.
Gus Dudgeon. Yes.
Gus Dudgeon. You're right. Yeah, because he thought it was gimmicky. So it's the only song
Because
on
it
the
was
album that he
gimmicky,
didn't
actually, in a way.
But he's since remixed it, remastered it, done, you know, orchestral versions of it. He loves it.
Yeah.
But he admits that he got that one wrong. You
Hey,
know.
we all make mistakes. So
We all have.
But tonight we're doing this kind of bit of a bonkers evening because it's 70s music. Do you have a strong connection with 70s music?
Well, yes, because I grew up in the 70s, so that for me was the time when I was absorbing all of that. I think all of the stuff that we're addressing and the stuff that Will addresses in his book was the wallpaper of the times. You know, it was the soundtrack of what was going on. Much more so. I mean, yes, we had the Stones and we had Bowie and we had all the alternative music.
Yeah.
But the mainstream music was everywhere. When you think about it, the power of radio in those days, everyone had the radio.
And Top of the Pops.
And Top of the Pops. Everything was focused into that.
And
that one thing, everyone watched it.
And Mike Mansfield,
Yes, the music.
who's going to be here tonight, apparently. I mean, it's going to be a lot of old, I count myself, two old codgers, and we're going to do old music. What are we doing? Chirpy, chirpy, cheep,
Chirpy,
cheep.
chirpy, cheep. Love grows
Love
where my
grows
rosemary
where my
goes. And we're doing, obviously, we're going to do
Andy Warhol,
your
yes.
song, Andy Warhol. We're kicking off with that. So yeah, it's fun. I like it.
But
I'm
when
excited.
you're not here, I know you're often in Abbey Road, aren't
Yes,
you?
that's where I kind of reside. I've got a
Okay.
a
Doing
production
what?
room there.
Mixing, mastering, or what?
Producing.
Producing,
mostly.
okay.
But you know, that's producing in the old school sense. You know, I work with people, I help them structure their songs, help with their arrangements. You know, the whole thing. It's more of a holistic approach, I feel, an old-fashioned approach. And I like people to play instruments. I like to move air. I don't do a lot of things in the box digitally, which is what mainly happens now.
Old school?
So yeah, old school. But you know, with all the modern, I've got all the modern gear, but I
Yeah.
have an old school approach to doing it. You know, I think the moment's always been the thing for me.
Yeah.
Capturing the magic, you know, getting a performance from someone.
Well, let's hope we're going to have a little bit of magic for tonight.
I think we'll have a lot.
We'll have a lot of fun, and this evening is for Will Hodgkinson's book. I
Yes,
mean, that's the most important thing.
which is called Imperfect Harmony.
Which hopefully we will be tonight.
We will be.
So thank you, Malcolm. Malcolm Doherty on
Bless
the
you.
sofa, and here we are about to take off for another mad evening at the Temple of Art and
Thank
Music.
you for having me.
Mwah, mwah. Thank you, my darling. Well, of course, the man of the moment, the star of this evening here at the Temple of Art and Music, is the wonderful Will Hodgkinson, and it's your book which is going to wow us all.
Well, I hope so.
I haven't seen a copy of it.
Well,
so...
that will be rectified very soon.
Yay! Well, tell us about it in a nutshell, and why we're here.
Yeah, it's a serious look at the silliest music ever made. It's a celebration of 70s pop music, but the idea was to take it seriously. So I wanted to look at everything from the New Seekers to Edson Lighthouse to 10cc, all the music that doesn't get considered as credible, and see the influence that it had on the time. And of course, it's politically significant.
And we all can know how to sing Chirpy Chirpy Cheep Cheep
Exactly.
with the most banal lyrics ever.
Totally banal, but then at the same time, that was when Britain was joining Europe. This is a Scottish band stuck in Italy, so it had resonance for things that were happening at the time in the 1970s, and of course, this music sold in the millions.
I know. Well, now the book is called
In Perfect Harmony: Sing-Along Pop
Yes.
in 70s Britain.
Well, hey, I hope some people are going to sing along tonight. We've done our little bit of rehearsing, and tonight is all about.
Now you're going to be leading the sing-along.
No, it's your evening. I'm so excited for it. It's going to be fabulous.
Well, it's down to you, Dana, and Sieng and Viv, and who've been so generous. And as soon as I saw this place, a couple of years ago, I started working on the book, and I thought, I've got to do the launch here. I really hope I can do it here. This is like the inside of my brain, but it's also the inside of some kind of 1970s fantasia. So it was just perfect.
Tris Penner says it's like a Fellini Satyricon film set. It's just not real.
But I'd say Fellini with a touch of Carry On, which to me is a very good thing.
Oh, me too.
Yeah.
Ooh, matron. No, I'm all happy for that. So we're going to have a fabulous evening. But the book, In Perfect Harmony, what's the publisher?
It's Bonnier, and it's a music imprint called 9/8 Books.
Is it in hardback at the moment and going
Hardback,
into...
exactly.
But
So-
we'll go into softback.
And it's a big book. It's my first big boy book. I've done 5 books already, but this one's like a chunky one, 600 pages.
I've got one of your books. As you know, the house
Yes.
is full of yogis.
Oh, yes.
Well, yippee, tonight we're going to have
And the
some...
yogi's going to be here, the
Well,
actual yogi.
I can't
My
wait
dad.
for it. So, Will Hodgkinson and his fabulous book, which everyone should buy, because Christmas is coming.
It's a brilliant Christmas present.
It is. I've got a few on order already.
I'm very
People
pleased
have
to hear
told me.
that.
Yes.
Doing
Thanks,
the
Will.
bit for me.
Yes.
Thanks, Dana.
Thank you. Right, we can.
Right, now here's my present for you.
We can bugger off now.
Yes.
You got me a present.
Yes, I got you a present. It's a fairly obvious present, but I should tell you...
What, the book?
Yeah, but I bought it because they only gave me one copy, so I bought you a copy, and I really, really hope you enjoy it. You are, of course, in there, but...
I'm in there.
You're in there, you're mentioned. Yeah, we're talking about, a
This
couple
is
of
it.
Jesus Christ Superstar and a few
Holy,
things.
holy, holy. This is it, folks. But what makes it different to all the others then? When you say...
Because this is it's a social history. Do you know what I mean? So I've taken it very seriously. Like
Yeah.
my other books, I'm putting myself in there, House Full of Yogis was a memoir. This is like a kind of, the idea is like a David Kynaston or, any of those kind of modern historians. The goal was to take it seriously.
Well, I've seen some happy snaps. I'm so delighted to get this. And a big book. Yippee.
Yes.
This is a Christmas read.
I can keep going well over a weekend.
Right, it will indeed.
Yeah.
We better stop talking because the DJ, Martin Green, wants to whack the volume up. So we're going.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
I still get the same old feeling tearing at this heart of mine, telling me that maybe I'm not really over you. I still get the same old yearning, turning my heart inside out. Love that can't be any doubt that I'm not over you. You're true when you call my name. A year ago now, somehow it doesn't look the same. I think it's closed now. Places we would go, still play the songs we used to
there can't be any doubt, but still not over you.
Everyone, come on.
It's overgrown now.
We can't move back to someday.
Just on our own now.
That is you of me. Still bring that sentimental ring.
And I still get the same old feeling staring at this heart of mine, telling me that maybe I'm not really over you. I still get the same old yearning, turning my heart inside out. Love that can't be any down. I'm still not over you. And I still get the same old feeling staring at this heart of mine, telling me that maybe I'm not really over you. I still get the same old yearning, burning my heart inside out. Love there can't be any doubt, but I'm not over you. It's more than a memory, but it seems so long ago. Now you can't be here next to me. Little did we know back in the day, back in the day. So now we talk on the telephone. There's still so much to say, but oh, I miss how we used to kiss. That was back in the day. Back in the day. Your lips on mine would be so divine.